we have to be renewed creatures. A man will never be able to be faithful on his own cognizance and his own strength. It's not in us. We created to be fruitful and replenish the earth. We're not created to cheat. We're created to be fruitful and replenish the earth. So as long as we got that tick in us, we're going to want something. But you got to have, most men don't have purpose. And a lot of men don't understand the concept of what I call seeds and weeds. And the Lord gave me this of where God plant a seed, the devil plant a weed. So I'll be honest with you, because you're speaking about Dr. Bryant. I honestly believe, I listened to his podcast years ago, and just on 3 or 4 episodes of his podcast, it was his sermons, was like the deepest, most informative things I've ever heard on 3 or 4 podcasts. Like, he taught me about science, he taught me about my body, like he taught me about my mind. And I listened to 3 episodes, and from them 3 episodes, I learned why he is so spiritually embattled. Because single-handedly, Dr. Bryant could be Moses and set the captives free. But every single man who can set the captives free are deeply embattled in spiritual warfare. Like, even my father, I've never heard T.D. Jakes, as deep as T.D. Jakes is, as anointed as he is, he honestly like a candle to the sunlight compared to my dad. But my dad has never come from behind the scenes solely because of his own embattlement. And so me seeing that, I'm like, man, I cannot lose to spiritual warfare, because God has called me and the world needs that. And I think that's where men fail at. So you don't have to practice monogamy. It ain't about that. It's just you got to be willing to die out to self. You got to be willing to turn that switch, because you could go to the doctor today and he could say, hey, if you don't live right, if you don't change your life, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You ain't got no time to practice. When you walk out of there, you have to have a made up mind that you finna make new decisions or you going to die.
But but see, I think I think y'all saying the same thing, because here's the thing. For men who are screwing all the way up until they bachelor party and saying they're going to change afterwards, they haven't made their mind up. They just have this delusion that somehow after marriage, they're going to become this different person when they really are 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's a double-mindedness there. They haven't truly committed. So I think the commitment even starts before marriage. You know, like, and I also, even when you consider why you fast, you know, in religion, I think just to make sure that you as sharp as you think you are, make sure you as sharp as you say you are, like you could die out that flesh. For real, for real. And I just had this conversation too. It's crazy. I was just talking to my boy. We talked for like 2, man. It's one of them boys where y'all probably only talk 6 months, every 6 months, but you probably gonna talk to him about 2-3 hours when y'all talk. And we was talking about the concept of being faithful. And I told him, cause man, we've interviewed hundreds of people at this point. And of the brothers that I spoke to, cause I've been low key interviewing men all my life. And of the men that I've noticed that can be faithful, I've noticed that the men that are truly faithful in their marriages, they're not faithful because they want to make their wives happy. They're faithful because cheating is an act against God. It's like cheating is way bigger than just, I don't want to make my wife mad. That's not even big enough to make a man fight his desire to want to have sex. So it makes sense to me, like, if you're not even at a place, if your relationship spiritually is not even there yet, you're probably not going to be able to commit to that level.
Right. And to be honest with you, that's why I'm in the relationship space. Because for me personally, I don't respect a man until he's married. Like, a man does not earn my respect until he's married and faithful. Damn. Like, he could bench press 500. He could make $1 million a week. He can have a jet. He can have houses around the world. A man does not have my respect. He will have my kindness. He will have, you know, my love as a brother, as a man, but he won't have my respect and admiration until he can be married and faithful.
So is that the highest level of a man?
It's the highest level of a
And
man.
faithful in particular. It's
and faithful, because anybody could be married. That's a piece of paper. See, real marriage is a covenant, because when we had marriage with God, we didn't have a courthouse. We didn't have a piece of paper. We have a covenant. So the piece of paper does not mean anything. And I remember my dad telling me that. He was like, listen, if you think that piece of paper gonna change something, it's not. And we have to have a covenant. And this is what you'll notice when you look around. And this is why I was telling y'all, with a lot of podcasts that won't bring me on, they won't bring me on because they know from my message what I stand on. And they don't want their wives or their girlfriends to see that this is a level of living that's capable, and I'm settling. When Cherie Gaskins has this mindset, and you around here talking to me like crap, and you around here talking about I got to give you a hall pass, and every man cheats and all of this. So they don't want to expose their woman who's in the darkness to men who speak in the light, who's showing the light. And so because of that, you'll notice most black men and men in general choose business and motivation over relationships, because it's easier to talk about making money than it is to talk about being faithful to one woman and loving one woman purely. Because what I have come to realize, the hardest thing for a man to do, and guys always capping in the comments when I say this, but they're not really living it, because I'm living it. The hardest thing for a man to do is be faithful to one woman. And what I mean by being faithful is not just about not having sex, but I also mean by cultivating her heart and mind, by speaking life into her, by understanding that his greatest strength is his gentleness, by not talking down to her, by not dictating and controlling and trying to silence her and make her. What men are looking for today are robots. They want Elon